I looked into your podcast, which I took a little too much at face value. I guess it's not actually about malls in general, from what I can see. Um, so I thought you were in. Are you in LA now or like Arizona now? I think somewhere around there.
I'm in Tempe, Arizona,
Okay.
which is in the Phoenix area.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I listened to your second to last podcast with someone based in Chicago, and yeah, so there's a lot of discussion. It seems like your podcast touches on different locations in the U.S. and like the vibes they give off and what it's like to be there and all of that, which is pretty cool. Um, I drove across the country earlier this year, and I'm about to be back in Albuquerque for a month. Yeah, I went through Arizona, Phoenix. I went through Phoenix on the way back. I ended up dodging it on the way out. Took Highway 10 or something on the way out, and then something else on the way back. So I actually I did start making some notes that were pretty mall centric. And
Well, I spent a lot of time at the mall.
yeah. Do you recall a book called Malls Across America? It came out about 10 years ago or so.
I do not.
Let's see here. Yeah.
Are you like in the Sierra foothills?
Yeah, it's pretty rainy right now, actually. So yeah, I'm in El Dorado County, I think, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, Placerville. Placerville is directly next door. So whatever county I'm in now has to be the same one as Placerville. I believe it's El Dorado.
You know who's from Placerville? Is Thomas Kincaid. You know Thomas Kincaid, the artist?
The painter?
Yeah, the painter of light.
Yeah, he's from around here too?
Yeah, he's from Placerville.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, Thomas Kincaid. He's I guess he has sort of a Bob Ross vibe, right? Pretty pleasant.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I mean he's a very commercial artist,
Who is the one that who's the Norman Rockwell is what I'm thinking of. He didn't do so much landscapes, I think, but sort of just what sort of small town America depictions often included people. There's the famous one of the guy standing there, I guess the lone nonconformist. I guess that's the kind of go off. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got some good ones, man. Yeah, very Americana. He's a folk artist,
Yeah. Well, so Norman Rockwell is it's got to be from the Northeast, right? Is that where he's from?
I think he could be from the Midwest. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
No, he was actually born in New York City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that sense, it sort of reminds me of I guess it's a real stretch, but H.P. Lovecraft living in New York City, but not really giving off the vibe as someone who particularly likes that location.
Yeah.
Sort of revolted against everything that was about, but he was from that very much.
Yeah, he was
Northeast
from the Northeast.
Yeah, I think he took off to Connecticut, which might have seemed like really getting out of the New York City area back then.
Or Rhode Island.
Right, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, there's a state I haven't been to. It's just small enough and far away enough that I haven't been. Arkansas is another one. Yeah.
Oh, I've never been to New England.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I'm planning a trip there.
Born out here and now in Arizona. So you're from those two locations. I get the very West Coast stomping ground.
Well, you know what? I grew up in I was born in Sacramento, and then when I was 7,
I was raised in Sacramento. I was born in San Francisco.
When I was 7, we moved to Nebraska, and that's where I grew up.
Oh, okay.
And then I've lived all over as an adult. I lived in Wisconsin, and I lived in St. Louis, Missouri, and then I lived in Seattle and Portland. And now I'm back in I'm in Arizona. My parents retired here. Okay. And so I kind of moved to be closer to my family.
Okay. Is it true that the London Bridge was relocated to Arizona, or is that some kind of urban myth? Lake Havasu? Have you ever heard anything about that?
No.
I recall. So it's in the movie Falling Down. There's a kind of a
Oh,
joke about,
great movie.
yeah, he's retiring to a Lake Havasu where the London Bridge has been relocated. Um, but I find that hard to believe because I'm quite certain London Bridge is still there in London. I don't think it would have been, fucked with anymore.
Yeah, that I'm not sure.
Must be some kind of recreation of what I'm thinking of. But yeah, Arizona, popular retirement location for sure. Um,
Yeah,
and you're just now getting into the good time of year,
big
unless
time.
unless you're a glutton for heat punishment.
Well, I got used to it, but no, I'm not. I like this time of year is very sweet.
Yeah, I drove to beginning of this year, which is starting to feel like again. I left California at the end of January, and I drove to Miami because I thought I was going to be living there, and I was able to work remotely. So I was like, why not, take the chance and get up and leave. So I got out there. It didn't work out, but I happened to be out there during like the best time of year, where it's only about 80 degrees and humid, or maybe mid 70s or something. I got out of
Yeah.
it before it was starting to creep back. But yeah, I was amazed. I don't know if you're familiar with Florida, but I was amazed at how different North Florida is from South. Like the
Hmm.
landscape, even significantly less humid. Now I don't know if that's really a big difference, high summer or something, but in that time of year, like North Florida felt quite mild, and South Florida was like far worse. Yeah,
Mm,
I was amazed at how skyscraper laden Miami was. Way more than anyone realizes. It's like it's up there with like a New York or Chicago. I would say after
interesting.
Chicago, it's probably the most skyscraper heavy city I've seen in the U.S.
Wow.
But they're mostly for residential. They're not for for
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah. People living in skies like high-rise apartments.
yeah, and it just
That's
dots
cool.
the coastline for miles and miles and miles. Um, you can see a sort of like pro building, pro growth agenda compared to like California's coast, which is admittedly harder to build things on than Florida's flat, constant thing.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, if Florida people were suddenly to come out to California, I think there'd be high rises all over the coast, all of it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, are high-rises okay with the seismic threat?
Well, that's probably another reason why they weren't built, not just some kind of anti-growth thing, but like it really is more difficult. Florida doesn't have that kind of problem, and in fact, rising sea levels makes it maybe beneficial to be in a high rise to some
Sure.
degree. I mean, if your foundations are right. But yeah. And what's funny about South Florida is that there's this. It's extremely flat. There are no hills. I thought that
Yeah.
I saw a hill when I was out there, but it turns out it was a landfill. So that's how bereft of any hills it is. And
Incredible.
so the tallest thing going on, the only place you're going to find a good view of anything is up in a tower somewhere. So it's,
Interesting.
yeah. Even
It seems
Phoenix is quite hilly and mountainous.
well, yeah. Well, we're surrounded by mountains. Yeah.
Yeah, I shouldn't say even. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. It's cool. Good hiking here.
Yeah, so you're 36. I believe you mentioned, yeah, you in a chat
Right
earlier.
now, I'm 36.
Yeah, I'm 44. So we're kind of on the cusp of similar generation. A little bit
Hmm.
of stretch, but yeah. So my primary period of acculturation, I guess, would be mid 80s to late 90s, and I think I've sort of been recycling and just kind of being increasingly nostalgic since that period. Those are my
Sure.
formative years, I guess. That's what I should have said.
So here's something. People are intrigued by the concept of a show that takes place in the mall, but and they tend to invoke nostalgia when they talk about it. For me, the mall is a living concern. You know, where I live, the malls that I go to, they have a healthy stream of visitors, and are well, populated by stores. The I mean, I on the show, for example, I had a person on who is an expert on dead malls, and
Yeah,
obviously those are very interesting spaces. and they feel weird. There's ghosts of a past that many people who are alive in our age are familiar with. The time when you would go to the mall when you wanted to socialize with your friends, or you would go to the mall when you needed to get something. You know, but for me, the mall is like, and here in Arizona, where the outdoors is kind of sparse and not, I mean, you've seen Phoenix, it's sprawling
Yeah.
and very concrete. There's not a lot of public life going on outside. It's inside the mall where public life takes place, where you can see lots of people gathering and, see the faces of strangers. That's why I started going to the mall I primarily recorded my show at the Arizona Mills Mall. I started going there to start seeing people again, and the mall that I started recording at is an unusual place. It's got unusual stores and things like that. But I mean, there's other malls in the metro that are still bumping. The Fashion Square Mall in Scottsdale.
You
That's
know,
like a cathedral of commerce.
is the it just occurs to me that that movie Bad Santa took place in a Phoenix mall, or at least purportedly. Do you have you
Mm.
seen that movie, and do you know what
It,
mall that
it's
might?
a That's a great movie. I didn't realize that was in Phoenix.
Yeah,
I
it
but
started off in Chicago, and then like he's like a con man Santa Claus guy who schemes to like rob the mall that he's working in that time of year. So
yes,
it begins
yes,
in Chicago, and then like his little minion helper guy is like fuck this freezing place. Let's go try a an Arizona mall next year, right? So like about
I
15
see.
minutes into the movie or whatever, it it takes place in Phoenix from there on out.
Yeah. Well, the movie was filmed. You're right. It does take place in Phoenix. The movie was filmed. The mall scenes were filmed at the Del Amo Fashion Center, which is in Torrance,
Oh, so LA.
in the South Bay. Yeah, and that's actually where Jackie Brown. The mall scenes in Jackie Brown,
Oh,
the
okay.
Tarantino
Yeah.
film, take place as well. I've never been there. I've been to some other SoCal malls that I like.
Yeah. It's interesting that the mall nostalgia has been in place since at least Jackie Brown, because even in that movie, people were I think that it was obviously evoking more of a 70s vibe. It would be like malls in the 70s, but even then that shopping center seemed a bit antiquated, and like putting it in that location seemed like it was kind of doing a service to like historical architecture and shopping experiences. And now like what 25 years out from that,
Yeah,
it's ultra nostalgic.
yeah, 25 years exactly.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I just um people are surprised, that whatever I do a show that takes place at the mall, but you know, you it's gotten people to go to their local malls, and I mean some of them are dying or dead, but I think that that there's potential for a revival. I do.
Yeah, well, it seems like malls as a kind of common experience in anywhere USA is largely over, but there are like certain high profile, high income locations where they're like trying to kind of reinforce and in some cases like revamp shopping centers, if not malls. So
Well,
the kind of like brick and mortar shopping experience is not dead, but it's been heavily damaged, and I
that's
don't know.
true.
Like,
It's hard to imagine there being malls outside of a place where there's a lot of spending power, because the idea that a gigantic shopping center can have lots and lots of stores, and that middle class people could go there and spend money to keep it alive, w- relies on the idea that we have a middle class, and we're economically struggling with that as a society. I mean, I don't know. I'm not very smart about economics or politics. I don't know where there is a functioning middle class.
yeah,
Um,
I think the economic prosperity now is much more uneven. Like kind of
yeah,
mid century America, it was a lot of the economic output of society was just it was there were a lot of eggs in various baskets, So like
Yeah,
just retail and just like Sears and things like that, and just they took up a lot more of the GDP than, and now it's like dominated by a lot of tech activity, which doesn't really manifest something you can see walking through a shopping center as much. Uh,
sure. Well, yeah, I mean, with the death of Sears, many malls have lost an important anchor, and
right.
the anchors are
Uh,
the key to the health of a mall.
yeah. There's something about the Southwest and malls that seems to be recurring. You're familiar with retail archaeology.
I'm
Uh,
not.
oh, okay. Well, it's a YouTube channel. There's a Twitter account, and this guy is he doesn't specialize in malls per se, but just kind of a retail experience that's dying, uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
and sometimes not dying. I mean, you'll see him wandering around Spirit Halloween store, which seems to be clicking along just fine. But
Yep.
he did a recent one about Toys R Us. Toys R Us went away, and now it's coming back in sort of limited fashion. But he does go to a lot of malls, basically in your general area, but also you call it the South Bay. I forget sometimes that LA has a South Bay as well.
Sure.
Think of the Bay Area.
Yeah, that's where
Yeah,
that's where like Del Amo Fashion Mall is.
yeah.
Yeah.
He goes to a lot of malls in like SoCal and Arizona. So there's something about that area that even when the malls are dead, they somehow seem less dead than the kind of like typical Rust Belt mall. The
Yeah.
ceiling caved in and there's like snow on these dilapidated elevators and stuff, which I find kind of fascinating. That's when dead malls impinge on like ruin porn, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of the dead malls in the South, in the the kind of Sun Belt or West Coast, they don't give off a ruin porn type vibe.
Yeah.
Just the weather on the East Coast and Midwest is so much more gnarly that it wears at physical infrastructure in a way that's just um, very heavy duty compared to the West Coast.
Yeah. And I mean, the summer heat of the Southwest brings people inside,
Yeah,
and that helps too, I think. You just
and
want to go somewhere to be able to walk around. You can't walk around outside.
yeah, yeah. They do for Arizona. The malls there do for Arizona people what malls in the well, to the extent they're still around, do for people in the Northwest. Kind of keep them out of the elements in
Yeah,
winter rather than summer. But yeah, I was kind of I felt like if I were to win the lottery, I'd spend time going on a tour of the Rust Belt dead malls because there
that
is
would
something
be fun.
really fascinating about the malls that are in such bad shape that they couldn't possibly be salvaged or revamped, and they're gone. They're just waiting
Yeah,
at this point. They're like beyond hospice care for mall.
yeah,
And I was
totally.
on a tour of these places. Like I would feel like Bruce Willis at the beginning of 12 Monkeys wandering around this snowy, abandoned kind of landscape. That's what I would want to do for Rust Belt malls.
Yeah, I, yeah. If I had a lot of money, I would go I would do more shows at different malls around the country that still had some life to them. And I'd be interested to know where they are. I think like I was in Orange County not too long ago, and I went to the South Coast Plaza, which is in Costa Mesa, and it was doing well. Doing a bang up on a Saturday.
Yeah, well, coastal California is privileged in the sense that you've got professionals making decent money that can kind of keep those things alive.
Oh yeah, totally.
I I did see some dead malls driving across the South. In Mississippi, I saw one. Um, like there's a very small stretch of Interstate 10 that goes through Mississippi, and even there, I managed to find a dead mall. And yeah, there's not exactly like a plethora of bachelor's degree holding
No kidding. Yeah,
like to kind of keep that going. It's like a lot of lumber yards, a lot of small, very like miscellaneous small business. A lot of it related somehow to home care or auto care. Uh,
yeah,
I saw so many. When I was in West Texas, I'd never seen more like tire shops and body shops per capita. It seems like it's held up almost entirely by that kind of
interesting.
business. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, the Southern man, he likes to work on his car, I guess.
Yeah, I also saw a ton of personal injury attorney billboards through the South. More
Oh,
than I've ever seen.
oh
That
yeah, they're big down there, man. I used to do auto injury claims for the state of Louisiana,
oh shit.
and I mean, just
Were
that
you
was
in
a
Louisiana or was it some kind of remote?
I did it from here in Phoenix.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, the number of personal injury attorneys, and there are big firms too that are just like mills, with like hundreds of attorneys working for them, and and then it's a very plaintiff friendly, you know, that venue in particular is like very plaintiff friendly. Like, you know, juries and judges are awarding high settlements for people
yeah.
who are in accidents, and so there's a lot of money to be made.
There's so many
Um,
people doing manual labor compared to like I was just in San Francisco for nearly 3 months. Right, something like that. It would be odd to see so many personal injury attorneys advertising around there. But
sure.
Texas and so forth, it's got so many people working kind of blue collar occupations that like it's just a recurring issue.
Yeah.
Injured on the job and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. True. True.